हेलो एंड वेलकम टू परफेक्शन आईएएस। आज 31 अक्टूबर 2023 को आज के महीने का लास्ट न्यूज़पेपर डिस्कस करेंगे and this newspaper today has a lot of news, as you can see on this first slide, which highlights all the important news articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. I want you all to have a clear and concise look for the next half an hour of the discussion, बिकॉज जितनी भी मैं बातें बोलूंगा वो सारी की सारी इंपॉर्टेंट होने वाली है फॉर द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ दीज एडिटोरियल्स. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट द डिस्कशन विद अ यूपीएससी प्रीलिम्स 2023 का क्वेश्चन, एंड दिस क्वेश्चन टॉक्स अबाउट द concept of sterilization which RBI uses, and it asks that sterilization का मतलब क्या है और RBI sterilization करता है तो क्या होता है. इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर सिंपल था, दैट वाज ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस, बिकॉज सेटलमेंट एंड पेमेंट सिस्टम इज समथिंग जो हमेशा चलता ही रहेगा, ट्रांजैक्शंस होती ही रहेंगी. दिस स्टार्टेड विद द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द इकोनॉमी एंड मनी, द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ मनी, and it's still going on. And similarly, regulating of NBFCs and regulating of central and state governments, cash and debt management of central and state governments. This is what RBI has been doing since the day one till the day end. So therefore, the answer will be A only, and the concept of sterilization is to check the capital flows, the appreciation and depreciation, the appreciation and inflation of the money, and it also can be encouraged by encouraging the private investment from the overseas or allowing the foreigners to borrow for money from the local markets. For this, RBI issues treasury bills also. Now, the first topic which we are taking today is about the anti-defection, and anti-defection law को लेके, if you see that it was first time in 1967 general elections के बाद that the party hopping started in the MLAs, which led to a downfall of the publicly mandated representatives. जिससे एक कल्चर पैदा हो गया था जिसका नाम था आया राम गया राम कल्चर. ठीक है. एंड फॉर दिस द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस ऑफ दिस एंटी डिफेक्शन आर 10th शेड्यूल, जो हमें प्रीलिम्स के लिए याद रखना होगा, which was inserted into the constitution by 52nd constitutional amendment act of 1985. Done. What are the prime grounds of defection of any person is, first, if the voluntary membership is resigned, if he resigns voluntarily from the party. Second, if he does the disobedience of the directions of the political party or the whip of the political party, अगर वो पार्टी के डिसीजन के अगेंस्ट में एक मेंबर चला जाता है, at that point of time also he can be charged under defection. Second is if he changes the party after the election, and if a nominated member, ये constitutional provisions है, ये provisions है जो लिखे हुए हैं about defection, and then if a nominated member joins a political party after the expiry of 6 months. However, to this defection, the four reasons or the four grounds of the defection, there are exceptions also. First is the presiding officer, that is the speaker and the chairman of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, once he resigns from the party, once he gets elected as speaker or the chairman of the house, the vice chairman of the house. Second is the a member who leaves party due to a merger. अगर कहीं पे merger होता है, that is 2/3 of the party members, they leave the party and then form another party, or they merge themselves into another party. This concept of merger was added by 91st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003, which made that 2/3 of the members to defect to declare a merger. Earlier, it was 1/3 members. The decision-making authority in terms of defection is always the chairman and the speaker of the house, and it was said in Kihoto Holohan case that Supreme Court said that the decisions are left to the discretion of the presiding officer, but they are subject to judicial review. होलोहान केस में बोला गया था दैट द डिसीजंस ऑफ चेयरमैन एंड स्पीकर आर सब्जेक्ट टू जुडिशियल रिव्यू पोस्ट डिफेक्शन. So that's all about defection. However, for the means, you need to remember that there were suggestions given by Supreme Court to set up an independent tribunal to decide the defection cases. And the second ARC report also recommended to transfer the decision-making power to the higher judiciary or the election commission. In such scenario, former Vice President Mr. Hamid Ansari also suggested the scope of anti-defection law to be restricted to the conditions that may lead to the loss of confidence in the government. So that was all for defection, and why this defection came into news was because Supreme Court on Monday has directed the Assembly Speaker of Maharashtra is Rahul Narvekar, और उनको बोला गया है कि जितने भी आपके पास डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन के पिटिशंस पेंडिंग है 10th शेड्यूल के अंदर, आ, उनको आप प्लीज एड्रेस कीजिए और उनको प्रोसेस कीजिए उन जितने भी केसेस पेंडिंग है अगेंस्ट द शिवसेना government. Next editorial is about the railway accidents, and there was a key point which was highlighted here, that is the Kavach system was not available on both these trains which got into accident. So what is this Kavach system? Kavach is an indigenously developed automatic train protection system. This technological upgradation is improved in terms of design and features of the coaches and wagons, and this detects the train accidents prior. This will be supported by artificial intelligence, sensors, sonic waves, so that the train accidents get reduced. One more thing is that what are the other measures which we have taken to reduce the accidents in trains? The first was that we did a Rashtriya Rail Sanrakshan Kosh, that is RRSK. This is a safety fund for the critical assets, and it was established in 2017-18 with a corpus of around 1 lakh crore, and over a period of 5 years for the critical safety related to work such as track renewal, signaling the projects, bridge rehabilitation, etc. Plus, there are technological upgradations like Kavach, like there is a modified center buffer couplers and bogie mounted air brake system. There is improved suspension and design and the provisions for automatic fire and smoke detection. Plus, with this, there is the LHB, that is lighter and safer coaches for Mail Express, and these coaches are based on German technology, in which we are preferring lighter coaches and lighter and safer coaches. There is GPS based fog pass device, which the device helps loco pilots to navigate in the foggy conditions. Along with this, we also have modern track structure also. This includes press-stressed concrete sleepers, ultimate tensile strength, rails, fan-shaped layouts. We have ultrasonic flaw detection also, which is already installed in most of the trains. And we have also an interlocking system to control the points and signals, certainly. However, there are various committees which have recommended to ensure railway safety. First committee was Kakodkar Committee, and this committee was set up in 2012. This committee recommended for creating a railway safety authority (RSA), Along with this, this also recommended to set up this railway Rashtriya Rail Sanrakshan Kosh for 1 lakh crores over 5 years. Plus, this also recommended for adoption of advanced technologies for the track maintenance and other things. Second was the Bibek Debaroy Committee, which was set up in 2014, which you all might have heard about. And this also recommended to set up a Railway Infrastructure Authority of India. And this was the committee which recommended to separate the railway budget from the general budget. And it also recommended to outsource the non core activities in the railway sector. After this, there was one more committee which is known as Vinod Rai Committee, which was set up in 2015. And this committee also recommended to set up an independent railway safety authority with statutory powers. And it also recommended to set up a railway accident investigation board to conduct independent impartial inquiries. Further, it also recommended to create a separate railway infrastructure company. After this, it also highlighted to introduce a performance linked incentive PLI scheme for railway employees, कि जो एम्प्लॉय जितना बेटर परफॉर्म करेगा उसको उतने इंसेंटिव्स मिलेंगे. डन. दैट इज द परफॉर्मेंस लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव. दिस इज नॉट द प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव. जो पीएलआई स्कीम गवर्नमेंट ने मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर के लेके आई है वो अलग है और ये अलग है. डन. So this was all about railways. Let's move to the next editorial, and this editorial talks about the US and China ties which are under discussion. As the author highlighted that the US and China relations and the potential for a presidential summit in November is reflecting a new sign of dialogue between the two global powers. And ये जो नया dialogue, नया confrontation, competitiveness या 2018 से लेके 2017 से लेके अभी तक जो हम trade war, tariff war, the war of hegemony and the war of superpowers, we have we have been seeing this and we have been addressing this. So there can be a new shift in such scenario. For this, we need to remember the key points which I have highlighted here. First is the emergence of diplomatic dialogues. US and China, despite of their competitive postures, they are engaging always in the diplomatic dialogues. For example, lastly, in APEC summit in the San Francisco, which is about to happen, there can be a presidential summit. Second is the relevance of the West Asia as the Beijing, and it is said that the China and the West Asian world, if it comes together, then it can be a headache for the Western nations. Second is the recent diplomatic visits from the China and this from China and USA both, and this has seen a growth in the Pentagon with the perspectives of China. Now, the US perspective highlighted by the author is that US has recognized the importance of high level and repeated interactions to prevent the misperceptions, miscommunications, and potential crisis. And that's what India stands for. And India always has this stand in international relations that we should focus on dialogue than dialogue and diplomacy than war and terror. And although the Biden administration has maintained a tough stance on China, however, it has always seeked to have repeated interactions and to seek guard rails to ensure its stable relationship. The Chinese perspective in such domain is that US is actually in decline and the hegemony of US is in decline. And to seek that this decline, why China believes in so is because of the Afghan withdrawal, because of the Vietnam case, and because of the West Asian case, and now US's reliance on Indo-Pacific. है ना? So these are the factors which seem US withdrawing, which seem that the sanctions from the US are no more applicable in the geo-economic world. That is why China wants US's acceptance for its economic and political system, including the supremacy of Chinese Communist Party. And that is wherein the Chinese dream of 2050 comes into picture, which is most propagated and pursued after by the Z government. Done. So for that, there are now hopes for improved relations between the two powers who are dominating the geo-economic sphere of the international relations. Done. Moving to the next editorial, this is not particularly editorial, this is a data point which was highlighted by the N.R. Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys. And he recently highlighted this thing that Indians should work for around 70 hours a week to improve their productivity and competitiveness. This suggestion has sparked debates and discussions. For your understanding, I have just simplified the all the editorial, ठीक है, so that you understand it better. Is there particularly a need to work for 70 hours, or there is a need to increase the productivity and competitiveness, not the quantity of 70, 80, or 40 or 30 hours? ठीक है. So if you see the current work hours of India according to the time use survey, which we use in while we are surveying about the employment in India, young Indians between age of 15 to 29 spend around 7 hours a day on employment and related activities in rural areas and 8.5 hours in urban areas. So on an average, we spend around 57 to 68 hours of work in a week, assuming that a week is of 6 days. So, for his suggestion, Indians are already on the same line. However, we sh- for his suggestion, people would need to work more for around 11 hours a day. This actually highlights a debate between the production and productivity, between the quantity and quality. However, if you see the same thing in the Western nations or the European nations, the people there, the young generation there, they are making more money out of less time. And when we talk about the labor based economy in the Asian countries, we are not able to make that much of production or that much of productivity in that amount of time, as we are not that skilled. Our generations, our younger ones are not that skilled. So that is why this may have an impact on life for the leisure activities, sports, personal time, quality of life. This all will be sacrificed. Therefore, India also has been lagging behind Germany and Japan when it comes to the time spent on the sports and leisure. However, the informal employment की अगर हम बात करें तो it's crucial to consider that the nature of labor force when we evaluate the work hour recommendations. So India has a significantly higher percentage of informal employment which is already working more than 70 hours a day. So therefore, the suggestion of 70 hours has particularly started a debate, है ना. तो इसमें आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग दैट मोर एडिटोरियल्स विल कम ओवर दिस. ठीक है, आज तो बस डेटा पॉइंट आया था. एक्चुअली में ये एडिटोरियल मैंने कल पढ़ा था. तो दिस एडिटोरियल केम इन टुडेज, दिस डेटा पॉइंट केम इन टुडेज न्यूज़पेपर. हमें यहाँ से बस इतना याद रखना है दैट वेयर फ्रॉम दिस डिबेट स्टार्टेड, एंड नाउ वी नीड टू फॉर्म टू सेट ऑफ आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. वन इज in favor of this and one is in opposite of this, and this is the most probable question which you might be asked in upcoming UPSC mains. Moving to the next editorial, this editorial is in sequence to the yesterday's editorial जो हमने भी कल discuss किया था about railways, about the cross subsidization between the freight and passenger uh, revenues of railways, as we see that railways is making losses in the passenger revenue and railway is making profits in the freight, and this in turn has led to overall loss of more than 45,000 crores when it comes to this has resulted into a total debt burden of around 45,000 crores of the railways. ठीक है. Now the government policies in the India, if we see the railways in India, so to enhance the logistic efficiency and promote green mobility, there are two key policies which government has been pursuing after is one PM Gati Shakti Yojana and second is the National Master Plan and National Logistics Policy. So as per these, railway has been focusing on the bulk cargo, as I highlighted yesterday also that 90% of the cargo is only of 11 commodities, out of which 45% is of coal, cement एंड आयरन ओनली. ठीक है. तो दैट इज द बल्क कार्गो विच रेलवे शुड बी focusing on. Declining the rail share, yes, despite these initiatives, Indian Railway has share in bulk cargo continues to decline, and the smaller industries often find railways siding to the capitalist or the capital intensive and leading to increased logistical costs. और ये logistical cost increase होने की वजह से there is uh, the main concern is that railway might be having more revenue generation from the freight, बट एक्चुअल में जो बल्क कार्गो है वहां पे रेलवे पीछे पड़ रहा है. तो व्हेन इट कम्स टू फ्रेट, ठीक है, कि सामान या कमोडिटीज को एक जगह से दूसरी जगह उठाना और वहां से रेवेन्यू जनरेट करना, उसमें भी देर आर टू सेक्टर्स. वन इज अबाउट द बल्क कार्गो एंड वन इज अबाउट द जनरल फ्रेट और द जनरल कार्गो और द कुरियर जिसको हम बोलते हैं. ठीक है, वो सब चीजें. द पॉइंट इज दैट रेलवे इज हैज टू फोकस मोर ऑन दिस बल्क कार्गो सो दैट it expands itself into this. Plus there are reforms which are required in the passenger revenue. ठीक है. Now the next editorial talks about the expansion of the settlements in the flood prone areas, because as per the recent study which is led by World Bank and which was published in the Nature, दिस सेज अबाउट द फ्लड रिस्क्स इन इंडिया. और ये बहुत ही ज्यादा हाईली प्रोबेबल टॉपिक है इन दी यूपीएससी मींस नेक्स्ट ईयर, बिकॉज इस साल हमने फ्लड से बहुत ज्यादा डिस्ट्रक्शन देखा है, बहुत ज्यादा लॉस देखा है फ्लड से. सो देयरफॉर दिस स्टडी बाय वर्ल्ड बैंक हैज हाईलाइटेड that the expansion into vulnerable areas poses substantial risk to the sustainable urbanization in India. First is urban expansion. ठीक है. तो इफ यू सी दैट द हाई रिस्क जोन्स हैज रेज्ड, जितना भी एक्सपेंशन हाई रिस्क जोन्स में हो रहा है वो बढ़ गया है, और उसकी वजह से सस्टेनेबल अर्बन डेवलपमेंट इज नॉट हैपनिंग. दिस वाज हाईलाइटेड बाय दिस स्टडी कंडक्टेड बाय वर्ल्ड बैंक. Then India's risk level is among the top. India is not among the top 20 countries with the most exposed settlements to flood hazards. However, it ranks as the third highest contributor to global settlements who are expanding in flood prone areas, following China and यूएसए. तो ये वाला पॉइंट जो है, ये वाला पॉइंट हमें बहुत ही ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट बन जाता है हमारे लिए, और इसको याद रखना ही रखना है, इसको अपने नोट्स में लिख लेना आप. देन इज इनफॉर्मल हाउसिंग वल्नरेबिलिटी. यस, अगर आप इनफॉर्मल हाउसिंग करते हो तो it all obviously is vulnerable to the natural disasters. Then are the mitigation and adaptation challenges. So how to mitigate and how to adapt to these. First is scientific mapping of flood prone areas, that we should understand which areas are flood prone and which can be sustainably populated and inhabited upon. ठीक है. जितना ही हो सकता है उतना ही एक्सपेंशन किया जाए, बाकी सेटलमेंट्स जो है उनको वहां से हटा के थोड़ा साइड में अलग जगह पे, जिनको हम बोलते हैं कि पेरिफेरल एरियाज में, जैसे दिल्ली के पेरिफेरल एरियाज में देर आर न्यू टाउनशिप्स लाइक नोएडा, लाइक गुड़गांव, which are developing. Second is differentiated approach. Yes, all the regions which are flood prone, they require totally different approach to be adopted by the government when we talk about the structures. पर्टिकुलरली अगर लोकल इनकम रेजिडेंट्स है या अनऑथराइज्ड स्ट्रक्चर्स है तो उनको कैसे करना है डील, वो किन लोगों ने बनाए हैं, कैसे हमें वापस जो एंक्रोचमेंट ड्राइव्स है उनको स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा, वापस उन बिल्डिंग्स का डिस्ट्रक्शन करना पड़ेगा, वापस वो जमीन खाली करनी पड़ेगी विच इज द नेचुरल कोर्स ऑफ द रिवर, है ना. सो इन सच सिनारियो, प्रोटेक्टिंग द लो इनकम हाउसिंग्स इज प्राइम मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. कि अगर लो इनकम हाउसिंग है इस एरिया में, स्लम डेवलपमेंट हो गया है, तो उनके लिए वी नीड टू फोकस ऑन प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना, उनके लिए जमीन, उनके लिए घर वगैरह, दैट शुड बी रेजिलियंट. Or if the constructions are by the elite people, or it's just the vertical structures of the real estate tycoons, so then there should be a different approach by the government. The last news came from the Attorney General of India. He highlighted this thing that electoral bonds are helpful to promote and help to donate clean money to the political parties. अब ये स्टेटमेंट हम ऐसे ही यूज करेंगे आंसर में। जैसा कि अगर आप कनेक्टेड हो हमारे साथ, तो आपको ये पता होगा कि कल जो सेशन हुआ था हमारे यहाँ परफेक्शन आईएएस में, फ्रॉम द बीपीएससी टॉपर्स हु ऑलरेडी हैव क्रैक्ड यूपीएससी मेंस इंटरव्यू, अदर स्टेट पीसीएस मेंस एंड इंटरव्यू मल्टीपल टाइम्स। तो उसमें वी हैड श्रेया बोस, शी हैज ऑलरेडी क्रैक्ड मल्टीपल एग्जाम्स अक्रॉस द स्टेट्स एंड अक्रॉस द कंट्री। द पॉइंट शी हाईलाइटेड इज दैट कि अगर आपको यहाँ पे ये चीज मिल रही है ना, दिस इज जस्ट द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स, है ना। तो आपको बस यही यूज करना है, सिंपल, दैट अटॉर्नी जनरल ने बोला ऐसा, खत्म, दिस इज योर इंट्रोडक्शन, है ना। तो कीप दीज थिंग्स इन योर माइंड, कीप दीज थिंग्स इन योर नोट्स एंड यूज देम directly. He says that this electoral bond scheme ensures tax obligations are met. ठीक है, he gives pros about this, he gives pros about the article 19 clause 2. So these are the points, these are the government statements which you should be using. Done. Next is that out of all the e-commerce platforms who are working in India, there is only one or three e-com platforms, only three are there who have a minimum wage policy. This study across 12 e-com platforms has presented a grim picture because the Indian gig workers, gig economy पे already मैंने discussion कर रखा है. Yes, I'll be discussing it again about the gig economy. What is gig economy? And particularly if you see the delivery boys, बहुत बार इनके वीडियोस वायरल होते हैं। कभी ये खाना खाते हुए इनका वीडियो बना देता है कोई, कभी इनको पीटते हुए, कभी इनके साथ बदतमीजी करते हुए, कभी इनको, लाइक, the point is they are working as freelancers, they are working just for the part time. These workers have no social security. ठीक है। तो अगर आप सीरियस एस्पिरेंट हो तो आपको पता होगा दैट अभी कौन सा स्टेट ऐसी एक पॉलिसी लेके आया है जिसने इनके लिए इंश्योरेंस स्कीम, या जिसने इनके लिए एक होलिस्टिक बिल लेके आया था, दैट इज जस्ट आर नेबरिंग स्टेट ओनली फ्रॉम दिल्ली, विच हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड अ बिल। कमेंट सेक्शन में आप बताइए कि कौन सा ऐसा स्टेट है जिसने अभी रिसेंटली एक बिल लेके आया फॉर रेगुलेशन ऑफ गिग इकोनॉमी। ठीक है। तो आउट ऑफ दिस, कीप दिस इन माइंड, कीप दिस इन योर नोट्स दैट द रेगुलेशन एंड द पॉलिसीज at the bottom level of these companies who call their delivery boys as their partners, delivery partners, है ना, तो they actually are not providing them the hourly or the local minimum wage policy. They do not have that, they do not have certain mechanisms, they do not have established set principles. So for this, there are five fair principles to determine minimum wage. And first is fair pay, fair condition, fair contract, fair management, and fair representation. These were examined. और ये चीजें आपको याद रखनी है, प्रीलिम्स का पॉइंट है और प्रीलिम्स में पूछा जा सकता है। डन। एट द एंड देयर आर टू पॉइंट्स, इनको आप याद रख सकते हो विद रेस्पेक्टिव टू आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इन स्टेट सिक्योरिटी, how India should be dealing with artificial intelligence when it comes to India's security. Already, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has conducted this artificial intelligence safety summit, and now Biden has signed the order to regulate artificial intelligence in United States. So should be India's steps in the regulation of artificial intelligence. Regulation of artificial intelligence in India, because this might seem to be a new ray of hope. This might seem to be a second sun for Earth to charge it, but actually, this has a darker side also, and this has to be regulated. Other than that, this poses serious challenges because the multidimensionality and the dynamism which AI brings in is exactly that. It can revolutionize, it can change the total dimension of cybersecurity. It can, if you see that, if you directly ask this chat GPT, or if you directly ask this generative AI to write a code for a virus which will uh, which will enter someone's system and then collect data and then transmit it back via this email, it just makes the things easy. It makes to write the codes easy. It makes you and the programmers to use or to develop new kinds of threats, malwares, ransomwares, or softwares or softwares to malfunction the other systems or softwares for surveillance. Very easy. कल की news है that millions of the Indians who have Aadhaar card data has been stolen and now it's available on dark web for sale. ठीक है. So therefore, these are the points which we must understand about the cyber security regarding AI and its regulation. There will be a separate video on the channel already. Next is about carbon flowers. अब ये carbon flowers क्या है? A material known as carbon fluoride, nanofluorides. So this editorial is about nanotechnology, as some researchers from IIT Bombay have created a carbon nanostructure which will absorb light, ठीक है, and then convert the light into heat energy. ठीक है, एंड दिस हैज एन एफिशिएंसी ऑफ 87%. प्रीलिम्स का पॉइंट है, याद रखना है, व्हाट आर कार्बन नैनो फ्लोरेट्स. इस एडिटोरियल का समरी मैंने यहाँ पे दे रखा है. इफ यू वांट टू गो थ्रू इट यू कैन. इट्स इजी बट नॉट दैट इंपॉर्टेंट. डन. व्हाट्स इंपॉर्टेंट इज हाईलाइटेड हेयर. डन. ठीक है. सो फॉर एनी सच फॉर एनी mentorship, for any guidance, for any help which you want in your UPSC preparation, we are ready and we our gates are open for you. We welcome you all, and you can connect to me on 90310 36712. Drop a message and text me, and I'll be helping you out as I have been helping all the other students who have already qualified this exam and whom you might be knowing now. ठीक है. After the last yesterday's discussion. ठीक है, कल का जो सेमिनार था. तो फर्दर आर बैचेस आर ओपन फॉर यूपीएससी एंड बीपीएससी बोथ. यूपीएससी एंड बीपीएससी के लिए बैचेस ओपन है. बीपीएससी 70th को टारगेट कर रहे हैं, और देर आर मल्टीपल अदर प्रोग्राम्स रिगार्डिंग टेस्ट सीरीज एंड रिगार्डिंग अदर growth in your exam and in your competitiveness. If you do not want to enroll also, you can still be connected with us through our Telegram channel, social media channels, Instagram and all, and that will help you in your preparation. There are daily quiz, daily आपको current affairs based MCQs मिलते हैं, daily आपको current affairs based summary मिल जाता है टेलीग्राम के चैनल पे. ये वाला जो पीडीएफ है, अगर आपको ये पीडीएफ भी चाहिए होता है तो आप इस नंबर पे टेक्स्ट कर दो, तो आपको ये पीडीएफ भी मिल जाएगा. ठीक है. तो विद दिस आई थैंक यू ऑल फॉर ज्वाइनिंग इन हेयर. जय हिंद, जय भारत.